Have you ever stared at a remote map and thought, can I safely hike out there? Over 30 years tackling Tasmania's wildest trails has taught me the difference is all in the planning. And 3 specific tools now give me rock solid confidence every time. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how I use these tools to map hidden routes, streamline logistics, and build foolproof packing lists, making remote adventures easy and safe. Mapping and route planning tools. So when you're heading off track, Google Maps just doesn't cut it. You need something built for hikers. I actually grew up relying solely on map and compass, and they're still in my pack on every single walk, and they're lifesavers when tech fails. Now, back in the early 2000s, I tested my first GPS system, and before that, we'd often be navigating in mist with no visibility. And let me tell you, that was tough, especially when you're remote and off track. And for nearly 15 years now, I have pre-planned every single hike using a combination of paper maps and digital tools. Honestly, I just love the process, figuring out options, alternate routes, bailout points, and over the years, I've trialed just about every app known to man. Suunto, Garmin, Coros, Komoot, and plenty more I can't even remember the names of. But about 2 years ago, I discovered Gaia GPS, and since then, it's been my go-to sort of digital map product. Think of Gaia like your digital Swiss Army knife for hiking. It puts all the tools you need in your pocket. And here's why Gaia is sort of my #1 digital mapping choice currently. It's got a premium subscription, which I use, which unlocks over 300 different layers of sort of satellite imagery. You can look at things like snow depth, depending on where you are, fires, even phone coverage for North America. Don't think you can in Australia from memory. But all the topographic overlays are just awesome. I use them now a lot more than I would use my sort of home-built maps that have been made by local government agencies here, because the topographic maps that Gaia have are just as good in my opinion. Before every trip, I download the maps for offline use. That way, my phone becomes a GPS unit, even in the middle of nowhere. And it does have the obvious snap to trail mode, which most mapping apps have these days, which is quick for sketching a route, while the straight line tool is brilliant for just bush bashing or even just seeing distances between 2 points while you're out there. I use that quite often. Then once you've drawn your route, you get an elevation profile as well, so you know exactly how much climbing you're in for. It's gold for things like waypoints. I'll mark possible campsites, river crossings, or even the sort of, steep scree here, or this is a section we weren't sure which way we're going to go. Sometimes you can even attach a photo so you can remember what to look for as well. Now, I can remember when we were planning a massive untracked walk about 2 years ago, there was one section of this range we just weren't sure about. There was no obvious route, no notes online, and anyone we spoke to who had been there sort of said, well, there's really big rocks and really big holes. You just got to be careful. Well, we spent hours poring over Gaia, toggling between the different layers, flipping from topographic views to satellite views, and sketching out 2 possible alternative routes through this tricky section. And that whole planning process, that was fun as well, coming up with these 2 different routes between the group of us. Then fast forward to day 8 of the walk. Well, we pulled out the app, compared our options on the screen that we had in front of us, right there in the field, and confidently chose a line that made the most sense to us while we're on the ground. That's the kind of flexibility that turns stress into confidence. And we weren't even stressed, we just had these 2 options to look at. We could see what was ahead of us. We took our option and it was a great route. And if you're new to all this, don't worry, you don't need to be a tech wizard. If you can use Google Maps to plan a drive from point A to point B, you can use Gaia. I've even made a couple of videos about it, which I'll link down below. Just get on the app, bring up your local area, sketch a short route, and give it a try on your next walk. And I'll even just use it now instead of Google Maps altogether. For example, I was talking last night to one of my clients online who was looking for some hikes to do in Tasmania, and I just shared my screen with him and brought Gaia up on the screen and just sort of plotted some routes for him in real time so he could sort of see the distances, see the elevation, and even sort of see the distances between towns in Tasmania, just because you get that better topographic feel than you would with Google Maps. And it's just a great tool. Now, I'm not sponsored by Gaia. I pay for the annual plan myself. I just genuinely think it's a brilliant app, even down here in Tasmania. But for disclosure, I am a Gaia affiliate, so any purchases made through the Gaia link on my website, it does mean I get a small commission. You don't pay anything extra. I just get a small commission. Helps keep the channel going. But occasionally I will pair Gaia with a fantastic free tool as well, and that one's called gpx.studio. It's great for uploading or tidying up GPX files before loading them onto my watch or back into Gaia. And I like this app because I can merge multiple tracks, reverse routes easily, change start points, and even split a long trek into manageable stages. And why don't I just use GPX.studio all the time, I hear you maybe asking? Well, it doesn't have a phone app and you can't use it offline. It's purely for planning and prep, not for navigation when you're out on the track. But the main reason I use GPX.studio is if, someone gives me a route from their trip and someone else gives me a route from their trip of the same route of the same trip, you know what I mean? Well, then I can sort of split them up. I can join them together. You can really get manipulative with your GPX files if that's your thing. But if you just want to create a basic route yourself, Gaia's the way to go. Together, I find the Gaia GPS and GPX Studio give me the clearest, most flexible planning setup I've ever had. But even the best map is only as good as your plan. And that's where my trip planning template comes in. Trip planning template. So here's the truth. Most disasters don't happen because of bad maps. They happen because of miscommunication. Now, back in 2014, I was deep in the southwest of Tasmania on an 8-day remote hike with a couple of mates. So we'd left our car and boat at a lake. And the plan was for some friends to come down on day 7 and drop the boat in the lake next to a lakeside lodge. Stay the night with us, then we'd all head out the next day after camping a bit further on down the lake. We'd even told the bloke at the boat ramp who run the little lodge there that this was the plan. And I think we'd even given him an itinerary as well to say, look, we're going out for the night. You'll see our friends come down for the night. Then we'll all come back and we'll drive off. Our friends arrived right on cue. We had a cracking night on the lake after this big walk. And the next day we loaded the boat back up, drove along the lake in the boat, back to the little boat ramp, onto the car, and we went up to the lodge to thank the owner because he'd let us park the boat and the car in his car park. He looks at us and he says,
"Well, glad you had fun. I even called the search and rescue on you." Ho, 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 ho.
We all laughed thinking he was joking because he was laughing, and it turns out he wasn't. About 40 minutes into the drive home, we got phone reception and my wife called and says, "Are you okay?" The police came to the house at midnight that night saying that I was missing. What had happened was the lodge owner saw the boat go out and not return the same day, and despite the fact we'd explained the plan and our friends had written it in the logbook at the boat ramp as well, mind you, he assumed we were lost. Here's where our itinerary saved us. My wife had the trip plan with our exit date and all the details clearly marked, including our route. She showed the police my satellite messages too that I've been sending. Between those, the police realised we weren't overdue and a full search and rescue was avoided. That's why I keep a single trip planning document. Think of it as your safety net, the thing that catches you if something goes sideways. Now, I've been doing this since high school. I was taught in my outdoor education classes back in the day how to plan a trip properly and keep a clear itinerary. And honestly, I've just always loved being organised. I keep the same kind of itinerary for a family holiday. It reduces stress, it gives clarity, and it makes sure that everyone knows the plan and what's going on. For my hiking itineraries, I always include things like route details with the entry and exit points and possible campsites along the way. I include alternate routes in case we need to bail out or change course. I include the names of the group members, emergency contacts, any permits, anything about logistics getting to and from the track, how often we'll be in touch, how to track us, and how to communicate with us, if you can communicate with us at all. I'll also have links to my GPX files and the route so that anyone who needs it has the full picture. And I'll share this both in a hard copy and electronically. It literally has every detail of the trip in there. And the bonus, it acts as a historical record that I can look back on if I want to repeat the walk down the track. If you've never made a trip plan before, then start simple. Just jot down your route, who's coming, and when you'll check in with someone at home. And don't just make it. Share it. Give it to a friend or family member before you leave. And like I said, both in hard copy and electronically. Now, I tend to share mine with at least 3 or 4 people, ideally including at least one person who actually knows the area and the sort of hiking that I'm doing, so that if something happened, they could easily relay what is going on. It's things like this template that I share in my weekly newsletter. If you want a copy of mine, you can grab it for free through the link below. Now, with your plan in place, you're not just ready for adventure, you're ready for the unexpected. Packing list and the 10 essentials. Maybe you've noticed how small oversights can become a huge problem once you're out in the bush. Forget a headlamp and suddenly you're cooking dinner in the dark. Run short on food and you're rationing calories instead of enjoying the walk. Now, I don't really have horror stories to share here because I've always been meticulous about packing. I've kept lists and checklists since my first outdoor expeditions in high school. And that organisation has meant I've avoided a lot of headaches that catch people out. That's why my packing system is built around what's called the 10 Essentials, your safety foundation. So this system was originally developed by the mountaineers back in the 1930s, and over the years it's evolved into a modern systems-based approach to safe hiking. The 10 Essentials prepare you for two scenarios: an emergency where you may have to spend an unexpected night outdoors, and something going wrong that requires immediate attention. So here's the quick reference checklist and how I use it. First, you've got navigation, map, compass, GPS device, and my route description. Next, you got sun protection, things like sunscreen, sunglasses, hat, and protective clothing. Next is insulation, extra clothing layers matched to the conditions you're going to be hiking in. Then you've got illumination, a headlamp with extra batteries or a backup battery to charge it. Then your first aid, a proper first aid kit plus personal medication. And here's a quick pharmacist tip from an old pharmacist: if you take regular medication, always pack a spare dose in a separate waterproof bag. Next, you got fire, so a lighter, waterproof matches, whatever you've got, something that you can start a fire with if you had to. Then a little repair kit, a lightweight little multi-tool, maybe if that's your thing, or just something you can repair stuff with in your kit. I like sort of cable ties and a little pocket knife. And nutrition, at least an extra day's worth of food beyond your planned meals. You need some backup food if you end up having to stay out a bit longer. Then you've got hydration, water bottles, plus a reliable purification method. And lastly, an emergency shelter. A bivvy, tarp, or even a simple space blanket if you're out on a day trip can go a long way. I even track my kit in tools like Lighter Pack. It gives you a bird's eye view of your gear so you can see exactly where the grams are creeping in and keep your pack light without missing anything crucial. Think of your 10 Essentials as your insurance policy when you're out in the wilderness. You hope you'll never need to cash it in, but the one time things go sideways, you'll be grateful for it. And look, if you're new to this system, don't stress about perfection, just cover the big risks first. Map, light, food, water, shelter, and refine your kit as you go. For me, it's not about being paranoid, it's about being prepared so that small problems never get the chance to become big ones. And once your pack is sorted with the 10 Essentials, the next question is, how do you actually build a kit that evolves with you and doesn't weigh you down? That's where I use my scope method. It's a simple 5-step system I've developed over years of refining my gear. You've got your S, sequence matters. Buy in the right order. Start with the critical items like rain shell, footwear, layers, sleep systems, then shelter. Only choose a pack once the rest of your kit is dialed in. C means core kit first. Shelter, sleep, stove, insulation, these are non-negotiables. Everything else has to earn its place in your pack. O is for ongoing audits. After every trip, I check what I used, what I didn't, and what I wished I'd had. It's the easiest way to cut pack weight and avoid dead weight. P is for pack integration. Organize smart, waterproof key items, keep essentials accessible, and always do a test pack so you're not fumbling when you're out on the track. And finally, E is for environment-specific tweaks. Adapt your gear for weather, alpine terrain, or group needs. Gear isn't static, it sort of evolves with the conditions and the trip that you're heading out on. Together, scope keeps me efficient and prevents what I call the illusion of preparedness. That trap of carrying more and thinking you're safer when in reality you're just overloaded. Now, to track all this, I use tools like Lighter Pack, or another one is Pack Wizard. I use them both, although Lighter Pack is a bit easy to use. A lot of people start out there, and it gives me just a bird's eye view of my whole setup. It shows where grams are creeping in and keeps me honest. Pack Wizard is another good one. Lets you build similar gear lists. You can also look at other people's gear lists on there quite easily as well, which is quite a benefit in that system. And with both, you can instantly sort of see how swapping stuff in and out can affect weight of your overall system. Together, the 10 Essentials, the scope method, and tools like Lighter Pack or Pack Wizard give me a system that's not just safe, but efficient. And that way my pack's lighter, my planning's clearer, and my confidence on the track is higher. Bonus tools, satellite communicator and safety add-ons. Now here in Tasmania, I'd actually call this one essential, especially if you're heading out solo or deep into remote wilderness. We've all seen the stories of search and rescue teams spending days looking for missing walkers who didn't have a satellite device. Picture this, you're 30 kilometres from the nearest road, you twist an ankle badly, and your phone shows no signal. Without a way to call for help, you are stuck. With a satellite communicator, you've got a lifeline to the outside world, no matter where you are. And yes, I know a lot of modern phones have, SOS functionality, that type of thing, but if I'm out in the absolute remote wilderness, I want absolute certainty I can contact help if I need to, which is why I carry a satellite communicator. And the one I carry is a Garmin InReach Mini 2. Two-way messaging on the Iridium network, a global satellite system, it means I can text even when there's zero reception at all. The SOS button links straight to a 24/7 rescue center. I can then also share my location through the map share on there so my family can follow along in real time. I can even pull in weather forecasts straight to the device so I have a good idea of current weather and forecasts. And while the battery, that can last well over a week if you use it correctly. And even on like a 9-day trip, I might top up the battery in my inReach once with it tracking me all the time. And you don't need to be a tech expert to use it. Setup is simple. For me, it's not about being over-equipped. It's about making sure that if things ever go wrong, help isn't days away, it's a button away. With this in your pack, you're never truly alone out there. You can call for help if you need it. And touch wood, I've never had to call for help yet. And if you want to learn more about how we navigate in these remote areas when we're deep in the wilderness, then check out this video up here next, where we dive into the only navigation skill that matters when you're out in the trail. Maybe I'll see you out there.